everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, and this is another episode of Put It Together Conversations. Thank you for joining us. This is one of our special midweek episodes, so I appreciate you guys being here. I want to thank everybody who's watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Please remember that you can comment and share, ask questions. Just hit that share button and let your friends and family join in on the conversation. For those of you watching us on YouTube, will you do me a favor? Scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and that'll let you know when new shows appear. If you're new to our page, remember we have the Christian and Daniel show, which is, if you're watching this live tonight, Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We have the Card Devo, and on Saturdays we have Put It Together Conversations at our regular time. We're kind of going on a little hiatus because I'm busy on the weekends for the holidays, but we'll be back with some more episodes pretty soon. This week, I'm really excited because he was on the show before, and the first time he was on, we had a great episode. It was really fun, but we'll talk about this. He was in a very awkward place during the interview. Today, he is at his place. Let me tell you about Aaron LaCombe. Aaron's music is the result of a lifetime of experiences lived in a relatively small number of years. From the time a trumpet was put in his hands in the 5th grade, music has been a daily part of his daily life. Within a year or two, he was sneaking into a forbidden room in his parents' basement to pluck away at the electric guitar. Within a year, Aaron was a songwriter, first in a metal band, bearing solo projects, collaborations, and different bands. Aaron now lives in the hill country of Texas and writes and plays his songs full-time. You need only to listen to his latest album to feel appreciation for the good times, profound respect for the not-so-good times, and what we all have to learn from both. And with that, let me bring up Mr. Aaron. Hello, sir.
Heyo, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Thank you for coming back on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure. We had such a good time last time, which I guess it was probably just under a year ago.
Yeah, because I was just starting to do my live streams, and it was just, I think we did ours right after the holidays because I found Uncle Carl, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and then I messaged you, and I'd seen for those of you that are always curious how I find my guest, I found Aaron in an article on Instinct Magazine. They did a write-up on Uncle Carl, the video, with the song, which we're going to play in a little bit. And I messaged him on YouTube, and he messaged back, and I was so surprised. Like, he's a real person. He actually, and then the date we scheduled the interview, can you tell us what was going on that day that we had to
I was in Terlingua, Texas, which is right on the Mexican border, is the absolute middle of nowhere. And the only place I could find Wi-Fi there's a golf resort out there. So I just kind of hung outside the lobby with my laptop and crouched down looking, like a musician, whereas all these guys in polo shirts and dress pants are coming and going. And I know for sure they're like, okay, who's going to go tell this homeless guy he's got to go? And then they're probably like, well, he's got a laptop. He can't be that homeless. But we sat there an hour and talked, and I did get some weird looks, but I never got asked to leave.
Yeah, like this homeless guy is moving on up. He's got a laptop with him. So.
Yeah.
But we heard some of your story last time, but I want the audience just to backtrack a little bit on your backstory. Tell us, Aaron, how you put it together.
Well, I mean, it's been a long, weird road. I kind of knew music was going to be my thing early on. I started playing trumpet real young, but it wasn't long before I started. As soon as I got a guitar in my hands, I started writing songs. And like you said, it was a heavy metal band in high school. God help us all. I had hair down to my belt, and it was a very different thing, and just sort of grew up over the years, and also moved south, which sort of helped steer me toward country, which is a great, if you're going to tell stories in a song, country's kind of the way to do it. And that's what I do. I tell stories. And so that's kind of where I settled, and just been trying to make my way playing songs and writing songs and traveling all over, and that's my thing.
Now this time around, I can ask you more questions because the first time I didn't have your bio. I wasn't reading the bios on. So why
Right.
was this room forbidden? Now I'm curious.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I'm going to see my mom in a couple of days here. I'm going back to Michigan for the holidays, so maybe I'll ask her more. But there was just a bunch of stuff in there that like it was like grandparent stuff, antiques. I don't really know, but it was just stuff we weren't supposed to mess with. And also, to their credit, I was the kind of kid who would like take apart the VCR to see how it worked. So it was probably like out of just they wanted to preserve all these things. They didn't want me turning it into a like rocket ship or something, you know. So I was pretty adventurous in that way.
Now, also in your bio, you talk about the first time you like the trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool to have your bio now because there's a lot of questions that I didn't ask you the first time around, which I can now ask. Who was the person that put that trumpet in your hands and gave you this?
Well, it was kind of like in 6th grade, we were all marched to the library and given this test where they put headphones on you and they go, okay, which note is higher, this one or this one? And they do much like at an eye when you're getting an eye exam, you know, except you're saying which note is higher, which one's lower, blah blah. And then they go, okay, you're musical. What do you want to play? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, well, we need trumpet. Here's a trumpet. And that's kind of how that went.
Nice.
And I liked it. I thought I was pretty good at it. I liked it. I ended up playing it, you know, right through college and everything. But
now, was there musical or creative people within your family?
yeah, my mom plays flute and sings. My sister plays the flute. My dad is not musical, but my his mother could play a mean piano and sing as well. So yeah, there was definitely music floating around in the family.
Have you recorded anything with your mom?
Only a wedding march for my first wedding. We recorded the "Here Comes the Bride." I think it was a piano or a trumpet and flute duet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't thought about that in a million years.
But not vocal, nothing vocal, just music.
No, I guess not. You know, she can sing just about whatever, but she mostly sings in church, or did at the time, anyways. So yeah, I guess I never even, you know, keep in mind when I first got into music, it was, you know, metal, which, you know.
I'm sure there's a space for a flute in a heavy metal band somewhere in
Well,
there.
I bet she could sing it great too. But,
So where we're, I'm sure we covered some of this stuff in our first, but I wanted to hear from you, like,
yeah.
because for those of you watching, we will put the link down for the first episode where Aaron came. So I don't want to rehash some of those stories, but since the last time we talked, because it was the beginning of the pandemic. We were right there in the pandemic when starting the last time. Was it?
Yeah. Well, no, it was. I mean, I guess it would have been.
Let me.
Heck, man, I don't know.
While we talk, I'm going to look for the date of that first.
Yeah.
But what have you been up to lately?
I travel a lot for shows. It's been this time of year. It's mostly just weekends. But I've done a couple tours up through New Mexico, Colorado. Travel a whole lot. Been working on recording a bit. Been working on writing songs. I have a songwriters group that we pick a theme every 2 weeks and write a song based on that theme. Just been kind of cranking away at it the best I can to keep, you know, with COVID, obviously it wasn't an ideal situation for being a musician, but just kind of tried to write a lot and focus on trying to stay positive about it.
Actually, I just looked it up. It seems like you were here a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago that you were here. We we talked January 21st was the day the show aired.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, January 2nd, 2001. So we were
Gotcha.
just fresh in the new year when we talked last time.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I had you, like in my head, I was like, it was after holidays, but was it last year? No, it couldn't have been last year. So yeah, no, we were a year into the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So how, let's talk as musicians, like musician life. How did the pandemic and the lockdown, like, did it help your creativity? Did it block it?
No, it did. It gave me a lot of time to sit around. Like, I have a hard time sitting still, anyways, and so that's kind of one of the major exercises in writing a song for me, or writing anything, is that it's just hard to make myself sit still and focus on it. But that gave me a lot of time to write, and it also gave me a lot to write about. Now, I will say that some of the songs that came out of that period were real bummers, and a lot of stuff about. There's a lot of, keep in mind, as the pandemic was ramping up, so was the Black Lives Matter thing, and all kinds of reasons just to get bummed out. So I was writing about a lot of stuff, and I try not to. I don't release everything I write. I don't put it all out there, because it's, who gives a shit what I have to say about Black Lives Matter anyways. There are lots of things that I can be upset about and write a song about, but really there are more informed opinions out there. There are people that are more qualified to speak on those topics. But I did write a lot, and I did retain some of that stuff that I still do in my set. And I had just put out an album called Outside Dog, which had some kind of more upbeat stuff on it. And so, I was really digging in and focusing on writing stuff that meant something to me. But, just...
But I mean, there's something you said at the beginning about country music. It is... I'm a Texas boy. I love country music. And it is storytelling. It's a story in itself.
Exactly.
Like, but I wonder, like, is that, I'm just talking about you particularly, like, is that why you write? I don't know how to explain it. I picture, like, in the old times when they didn't have newspapers and just some guy would come out in the middle of the street and, like, tell them what was going on.
Right.
And there you would be, just telling them, hey, this is what's going on in the next village. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, I was just talking about this with my girl the other day, about how, that's honestly how news used to get around. Like, if somebody killed somebody would write a song about it and go sing that song, and the song would get passed. And that's a lot about how news got around. Now, I won't say that I'm not burdened by having to have everything be actual fact in my songs, but they always do start with something very truthful. I would hate to have to write songs that were 100% factual for, like, the news or something. But they always start somewhere that means something to me. And yeah, it's kind of neat to be able to create a story and a narrative and take people along on a ride. And when I get to play those intimate venues where people are actually listening and they can come along and, catch the little surprises in the stories and stuff like that, that's kind of magic, man. That's what I'm in it for.
That makes sense. Yeah, because most of my favorite country songs have, but I like I like a good heartfelt. Like, if you make me cry, and for those of you watching, there's several songs that I have on my YouTube playlist when I'm working at home, because the videos are there, or anyway. There's several Aaron LaCombe songs that, like, just like, how dare you? For instance, Uncle Carl, as I was prepping the pre-production for the show and I was setting it up earlier today, I played it. I played the whole thing, and I was crying. I was like, "How dare you, Aaron? You're not even on the show yet." And
You
do
know,
you guys, huh?
I still get when I watch that video that the company just did such a good job with that video that I still get a little bit choked up at the hug part. It still gets me, and I've seen it hundreds of times.
Well, because okay, so coming from the gay community, like most of my friends, we have that person in our family.
Right.
He's our brother, he's our dad, he's the uncle, whomever. And we've all had that one family member that we're just kind of like you don't get it, and then you just don't say anything because you're like, why tell you anything if you're not going to get it? And then all of a sudden the light comes on, and it's the most surprising thing. Segue to a question. Have you, I'm not a moment like that, but not particularly Uncle Carl, but have you had a moment in your life like that where, like, person in your life?
The whole thing, the whole Uncle Carl story came from a couple different things that happened in my life. And my sister, I have a half sister that's a lesbian, and my whole sister, I guess that's what you call those people. Like, she and I knew it from early on. We were like, yeah, Jennifer's a lesbian. It was just a thing that we accepted and knew, and it never even occurred to me that it went over my dad's head. And so when she came out, my dad, being the little bit right-leaning, had some difficulty with it. But it wasn't long before he was like, this is my daughter, blah, blah, blah. He went to the wedding. It was great. But it was, that's kind of what brought that whole thing. It just gave me a little bit of experience, just enough to draw that story from, that I could be a little more authentic about it.
Gotcha. For everybody watching, I want to remind you, you're watching Put It Together Conversations. My guest today is singer-songwriter Aaron LaCombe, and we're talking family surprises, musical influences, and country music. So please, if you have a question or a comment, make sure you put it up there and we will show it. If you have any questions about songs, music, anything, put it up. I think this is a really good time, just so people know what we're talking about. Do you mind if I go and play the video for everybody?
Go right ahead.
Where is it? There we go.
We got the mashed potato. How are ya? Hey, Aaron, how are you? How's your house going? Going good?
The table set for half in Texas on a Christmas afternoon. There'd never been so many cousins in that tiny dining room. All us kids were down on one end, making jokes while Dad said grace. We said amen, and Uncle Carl stood up with a strange look on his face. I was just about to try the beans Aunt Cindy brought from home when Carl spilled some beans of his own. Uncle Carl came out on Christmas in front of God and all us kids had known for decades, and Dad had no clue at all. Carl's best friend who'd come to Christmas the last 4 years in a row said, I think it's time to let you good folks know. Now, raised voices were not uncommon at family dinners such as these. Global warming or Obama, Muslim refugees. But no one so much as whispered. We just sat and ate and chewed. So Dad got up and took his beer to the TV room. Mom and Grandma got up next and cleared the plates without a sound. and us remaining, we said we love y'all both. And Dad'll come around. And one by one we filled the TV room, spilling out into the hall. The Cowboys lost, of course, which didn't help at all. Uncle Carl came out on Christmas in front of God and all us kids had known for decades, and Dad had no clue at all. Carl's best friend who'd come to Christmas the last 4 years in a row, he said to Carl, I think we'd better go. Carl had gone to get the coats from the bedroom in the back, and Mom packed up some turkey and some tin foil in a sack. I was pretty nervous as Dad was shifting in his seat, and we all drew a quick breath when he got up into his feet. And then that man who'd never hugged a soul, at least that I had ever seen, he threw his arms around his brother. A Christmas miracle indeed. And those three talked another hour out in the cul-de-sac. Carl, my dad, and my new Uncle Jack. Uncle Carl came out on Christmas in front of God and all us kids had known for decades, and Dad had no clue at all. Carl's best friend who'd come to Christmas the last 4 years in a row said, I can't believe y'all didn't know.
Dang, every time.
I didn't look at it, so I wouldn't be teared up when you brought me back into frame.
There are two particular parts that get me every time I watch it. Okay, well, first of all, I didn't until today, maybe because I was in work mode and I wasn't just. I didn't realize till today that at the beginning it says, "Hey, Aaron," at the very beginning of the video.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd never heard that. I don't know why I never heard that. But there are two parts that get me, and because I remember being in that position where we were at somebody's house or something, and I would turn to my partner and go, "I think let's just go, like let them have a good time and
right,
just leave," which is kind of dumb because at that moment everything's just awkward.
right.
And then the second part, because my dad would do that to my partners, and I think he's even done it to Christian, where he doesn't hug or anything, but he kind of like pats, or like that's his way of like I'm acknowledging you,
right,
manly, like
right, yeah.
Does that make sense? Were those things on purpose, or were they just?
You know what? That production was a really interesting day for me because the company that did it is a buddy of mine, Lucky Gonzalez, and it's nm.co and their New Mexico thing. And I hired them to do that. And it was my buddy's company, and like, I didn't know I didn't know they were going to be rolling up with vans, and there was going to be like craft services and all kinds of crazy lights. Like I didn't know it was going to be like that. So they roll up the night before they start decorating the house. They like pulled the flat screen off the wall and stole an old tube TV from the hotel that they were staying in to make it look like it was the 90s. And they decorated the whole place, and like we actually cooked a turkey and all this stuff. I think we did a chicken anyway, and just shot it different to make it look bigger. But like, I mean, the whole thing just was it just got nuts. Like it was going to be some friends of mine, and then actors start showing up. So to be honest, I don't know how much of that was the actors just kind of doing their thing and what they were told to do. I gave them a pretty decent outline of what I wanted to happen, but the song is also kind of its own outline, like but the guy who played Uncle Carl, he is gay, and he told me that filming that was like reliving that experience. All 50 takes we did. And then the guy that played his brother, Dad, with the red hat, he was just phenomenal, man. He made it for me. And that scene where they shoot out in the cul-de-sac and he comes out. I mean, I think what shows up in the thing is like first take. And I mean, we were all just bawling. We were just sitting on set, just bawling. We're like, okay, we got it,
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of that was just the actors just kind of being in that space and knowing what to do.
Well, I'm already throwing my hat in to be in your next video. So
you got it, man.
Just so you know, like I'm so there. I want to be part of the LaCombe album family. Or
you're in, buddy. You're in.
We do have a couple of questions for you on the board, so let's start
cool.
with that. Where did you get the courage to create such a beautiful and potentially controversial song?
I wish I could take credit for being the kind of person that was like, I was a lot motivated by just wanting to annoy the right people. You know what I mean? Like I have a real hard time with people who hate people for no good reason. And so it wasn't out of some big motivation to do the right thing so much as it was, I just want to piss off those people for being jerks. You know what I mean? And like I say, I have a lot of LGBTQ friends in my life. And when you have friends like that, it's hard to watch people being jerks to them. So me being in the hill country of Texas, where I am currently located, a lot of it was okay, I have to write a Christmas song because I told you it was for a contest. What subject can I tackle that will piss some of the right people off? And the fact that it came out like it did was just a lot of luck, and it was a really neat experience writing the song. But I appreciate the compliment. It did not come from 100% a good-hearted place. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's when like that's when you're doing something good. Because for Instinct Magazine to pick it up and put it out there and talk about it the way they did, and if I can, I'll find the article. I mean, obviously, got my attention, and
right.
But I mean, I always do homework. I always go through and find to see who I can interview, and yes, I was like, who is this dude? Wait, he's straight? What, he wrote this song? No, I want him on my show. Like, I want to know why.
Yeah, and all that was kind of like an afterthought for me. Like, I didn't really consider that. I knew it was going to upset some people, and the first night I played it, it definitely, like I said, it came in last in the contest. It definitely, definitely struck the chord that I wanted it to. But I was just mainly upset about seeing people treated that way, and I thought, well, I'm here in Texas. Who can I upset that will potentially make a difference?
But now, okay, let me ask. We have another question for you before I ask my question. What was the backlash after this song was released? How did you manage through it? It's kind of what I was going to ask too, but
just there really wasn't any backlash. I mean, a couple of promotion companies didn't want to do business with me. I gotta think there's been times where I've been like asked to open for some traditional country acts that you would know, like bigger names. and then at the last minute, they go to my YouTube and check that out, and it feels like this is a little bit of a hot potato. Like, we don't want to, this guy's got too many opinions. We'd rather have somebody that's what it feels like to me. I can't verify that ever happened, but like, I've been scheduled to open for some bigger names, and at the last minute they're like, they get somebody else, and that's the only thing I can think of that would cause.
And I can relate to that because I've auditioned for stuff or been submitted for stuff, and I know I'm like, I got this, like I'm that character, and then but I know that my advocacy work sometimes I have 21 years of advocacy work, so I think people sometimes look at that and go, oh, is that what we want? But then for every role that I don't get, some project that is amazing comes along. So I think it's pretty cool. So,
and I can absolutely say that the benefits I've gotten from it. I mean, just the other day I went back through and read all the YouTube comments on that video, and I mean, like, that kind of love from a community that I have no business getting any love from, it's just amazing to me, and it's been so encouraging. And that the last year, because of that video getting out, a bunch of my music sold, not just Uncle Carl, but people bought whole albums. And so to say I suffered any backlash is a gross overstatement. I've gotten way more benefit than anything else. And the people that don't want to deal with me because of it, I don't want to deal with them either. It's good that I know that. If you're that kind of person, I want to open for you.
That's my thought process now. Is like, well, if you don't want to hire me because I have a voice or I do something good for the community, then that's on you, not on me.
Right.
I'm going to continue my path.
Country music's got a ways to go as far as that goes. I mean, you could see this summer or whenever it was with the whole Morgan Wallen thing. I don't know if you know who he is, but
yes.
Some of the country music executives and platforms sort of denounced him, but the other half bought the crap out of all his albums and all that stuff. And country music's got a little ways to go.
Yeah, well, for every hymn, I just forgot the name, but there's Lil NX, who
right?
The other side of,
for sure.
For every country singer who is all for his people,
right?
You got Jimmy coming out with doing Dancing with the Stars and like all these things. So I do agree, because I was a big fan of Freddie Fender back in the 70s. He was one of the first singers I saw as a little kid. This is at Trader's Village in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, wow.
And my dad, we were going to Trader's Village all the time, just at the flea market. For everybody, it's a big, huge flea market in Dallas. It's out of Dallas. But my dad took me, and he was performing at the little rodeo they had there. And I remember seeing this Latino with an afro singing Spanglish songs to country music. And I was like, what? Like, this is like messed up. Like, I couldn't put it together. And that was the beauty of it. I couldn't put it together. And I grew up, to this date, Freddie Fender is my karaoke songs. So whenever there's a group of older people who know who he is, like, I'm on that right there. But I think this last year has brought out a little bit more, like, it spotlighted country music for the good and the bad of it. And I think it's not so much that it's bad. It's just it's what it was traditionally. Does that make sense? Like, that's what it always was.
Right.
And we're starting to turn the dial.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be slow going, and it may split. There may be something we call country and something we call something else eventually, because what country music is if you just listen to the radio, is a totally different thing than what I consider country. The guys like Tyler Childers and Jason Isbell and stuff that are making music that makes you think and makes you question things. And then there's the stuff on the radio that's just about beer and trucks and chicks. And I don't have anything against it, but it doesn't really stir me. Then, you know.
Yeah. But I think there's I guess, I mean, I'm not a musician. I pretend that I know how to sing. I really don't. Which I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story in just a minute, which was just really interesting. But I believe there's a place for all music. Like it has its spots. Like obviously, like here in Laguna Beach is not much of a country music scene.
Right.
So it's more of the traditional, like fast songs, drinking beer, like woohoo, because that would fit the moment. But then I remember when I lived in Houston, this is back when I was drinking. Back in Houston, me and my friend would get drunk on jug wine and listen to Patsy Cline and just bawl our eyes out because we were just broken up, and that was to me beautiful. I mean, those are. But you play something like that here, and people are like, "What is that? That's slow. Stop it." So I do believe that there's a space for everybody and everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And I get it. At the beach, people want to party. They don't want to listen to, you know. I played a show out in Galveston a couple weeks ago, and you know, I was sitting, you know, 200 yards from the beach playing to these people that are just trying to have a good time, and you know, I had to choose my more upbeat songs because I know they weren't there to be bummed out.
For everybody watching, I was going to say something. I lost my mind. We're halfway through the show. You're watching Putting Together Conversations. My guest today is Aaron LaCombe. We're talking about music, where everything fits, and what is country music. So let me ask you that. I've always wanted to ask a country singer this. In your view, in your taste, are there certain ingredients that should go in a country song to make it a country song?
Totally. I think it has to tell a story. To me, that's what country is about. It's not just a concept of like, you know, let's party or let's get drunk or, you know, certain songs are, you know, anything from like EDM to pop music to whatever can just be a mood, and that's fine. There are times when you know, classical music is just a mood, you know, or there's lots of different stuff. But to me, country tells you a story. There's people in it, and something's happening to them. Sometimes you get to learn their names, and sometimes they die, and sometimes they fall in love. And a lot of times they get their heart broke. Or sometimes they sit there and listen to Patsy Cline and drink a jug of wine. But it's something happening to people. It's a story, and that's kind of why I settled in country music, because I like to tell stories. And
was there a particular country song that you listened when you went from rock to country? Was there some influence, like, or a song, a person?
Well, a lot of it was, so when I was a kid, I grew up in Detroit, and we didn't have a whole lot of country music up there. But my dad was really into, my mom too, we're both into James Taylor. And he's not a country artist specifically, well, at all really, except for a couple of songs. But he is just a guy with a guitar telling a story. And I think he was kind of like my gateway to country music. Like he was the one who sort of, you know, gave me permission to move from these big, heavy instrumental things to stripping it back down to just a guy with a guitar telling a story. And once you're there, country music is the obvious first door you walk through, you know?
Yeah. And I was going to say, James Taylor is an excellent storyteller. There's several songs of his that, what is it? Here in Heaven, I think is the name of the song.
I don't remember that one, but I mean, some of the stories. He has a song called "God Have Mercy on the Frozen Man," which is kind of buried in an album. You wouldn't have heard it unless you went looking for it. But holy crap, it is an amazing story. And you're there with it the whole time. It's really cool.
And I think for those of you watching, it's like, that's not the name of the song. Maybe it's not the name of the song, but you know the song I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The one that he wrote for his son. It is such a it's such a story within it. And the way the music industry is now, it all it takes sometimes is to change the beat of the music and the instruments, and you can take almost any song and turn it around and make it country. And then there's I forget at the moment who was it that I was looking at that had a song and they made it pop and they made it a country version and they made a slow version. I was like, and it's all in the same album. Like you buy the album, you get like 5 different versions of the song, a 10-minute remix. And I'm like, okay, first of all, who needs a 10-minute remix? I'm just gonna say that.
Right.
But have you thought of like taking some of your songs and putting them into another genre, or has somebody done that yet?
Honestly, it's only been this last album or so that my stuff has been specifically country. I've kind of been working my way from rock and roll and kind of singer-songwriter-y stuff. And honestly, that was more of a business choice than anything, because when you've got songs on an album that are from 5 different genres or whatever, it's really hard to sell for, like, no record companies, managers, stuff like that. They're gonna be, okay, this stuff sounds good, but like, who am I going to sell this to? And I'm too old for like to be sitting here thinking like a record contract's going to come my way and I'm going to head out on tour with, Justin Bieber or whatever. But but I certainly don't.
Please don't do Justin Bieber. No offense. No offense. Just don't. No.
It's just the first one I thought of.
I will remove you from my playlist completely.
Who would go to that show? Like, that would be really interesting.
That would be interesting.
It would be two totally separate crowds. It would be people showed up for me, and then they would all leave, and then his fans would come in.
All of a sudden, we'll have another show next year, and you'll be like, "Well, I just recorded a song with Justin Bieber." I'm like, Aaron,
I don't think we're at any risk of that.
But when Gaga and Tony Bennett started doing all these versions, weirder things have happened. So here's a little story, because we're down to like about the last 15 minutes, and we have another segment. But so I auditioned. I got an audition call on Sunday night, and recorded it. I wasn't too happy with it. I was kind of like, give it your best and do it. And they didn't give me a whole lot of instructions on what to record. And so we just
like a self-tape thing?
Yeah, because everybody's doing self-tapes right now. And
right.
So I self-taped it, and Christian helps me on Zoom because we were in different places, and recorded it, 2 different versions. I'm like, I'm going to send both of them to see what they think. Mm-hmm. So the audition, I can't say the who and the what, but the audition, the script was the beginning verses of Willie Nelson, On the Road Again. And I've heard, I've sung the song forever. Oddly enough, there were one verse I was like, oh, I didn't know that's what they said. But anyway, so I recorded it, sent it in. I sit down, we're done. I shut everything down. I sit on my couch and I'm like, okay, so like, am I going to be worried about this? Am I going to be concerned? Am I going to like sit here and like wonder if I'm going to get it or not? Uh-huh. So I'm like, you know what? Just let it go. Just let go. Forget about it. Uh-huh. So I'm scrolling on Instagram, and the first picture always pops up, and you don't know who that is. And then I scrolled. The second picture that popped up was your picture of Willie Nelson ornament
my
Christmas tree. And I was like, if this is not a message from God in the universe right now, like not only is he coming on the show this week, but he's got Willie Nelson in his picture. So I was like, even if I don't get this part, I know that there's this is a good omen, like something good can happen. So,
well, if I've got any mojo in that area, I'll cross my fingers for you. Try to
Please
send
do.
some Willie vibes.
Please do. So we're down to the last 15 minutes. For everybody watching this is Put It Together Conversations. My guest today is Aaron LaCombe, and we're talking music and influences and potential collaborations, I guess, in the future. Um, this is about the time where we ask my guests to share some words of wisdom with the audience. So Aaron LaCombe, what words of wisdom do you have for us?
You know, whenever somebody asks me this, I try to pick a lyric from a song I've written, because those are the things I can sort of think back and think of what place I was in, and if I put it in song, I really meant it. And so this time I'm going to give you a bridge from a song I wrote earlier this year. It's, what's the worst you think might happen if you dropped your bullshit and tried being kind? And that's my advice. I just think people get too wound up about little tiny stuff that the news tells you you're supposed to be wound up about, and they forget that the people on the other end are humans, and that they have feelings, and there's a reason they're in whatever situation you're mad about. If they're if they've got a drug problem and you're looking down on them, there's probably a real good reason they ended up like that, whether it be a bad home situation or abuse, or they're a veteran, or they got some pain pills, and just drop your bullshit and be nice. That's what I got.
It's so interesting that you talk about that today. I just did a presentation, a little speech for a virtual conference today on inequities. This is a healthcare advocacy conference, but they asked me to speak about inadequacies in the community, especially HIV. And what you were just saying was part of my speech. Is like, you don't know what's happening on the other side. And one of the reasons it came up is I did a training earlier this year, and we were talking about privilege and how privilege affects healthcare. And I walked into this training thinking, well, I'm Latino, like I'm minority, like I've struggled. My grandparents, like, yay, like I'm hustling. And then as we were going through the conference, there were people in the training who are actual, like, I mean, I'm an immigrant, but we moved here when I was 3, so I'm Americanized. But they're recent immigrants, they're monolingual. Some of them are not documented officially yet, and they're going through struggles. And it made me realize how privileged I was. And I'd never thought of myself in that group. And dude, for a couple of days, it just spun my head around. Like, what have I been doing? Like, have I been mean to people unknowingly? Like, you know what I mean? Like asking them to do things that they didn't have. Some of them didn't have internet. Some of them didn't have transportation. And here I am going, well, just show up to a meeting or just show up to an event.
Right. It's really interesting you should say that. I have a friend who doesn't speak English, Spanish only, and he's here for a few months. And he bought a truck and was trying to get it registered today and insured and all that stuff. And the battles he was up against, just because of the language thing for one, but then the DMV and the inspection and all that stuff, it was an immense task. And I had done the same thing with the vehicle a month prior, and it was a 10-minute deal for me.
Yeah, it's so, you saying that is, it put me in a different perspective. It's like, I've got to be a little more patient. For those of you, the nice guy you see here in front of the camera isn't 24/7. I am not always this pleasant. And don't let Christian jump in the conversation. But it really did spin a little bit. I mean, it's like, you just got to be patient. Just starting with who we are, like who you are and who am I. Like your ability to get on stage, play an instrument, sing for a crowd that you don't know, and give it your best. And the ability that I have, and I consider a privilege, to sit in front of a camera and introduce people and talk to people. That's not everybody has that ability, and I think sometimes we take it for granted that we just get up and tell people, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work for everybody. Does that make sense?
Even just like you and I are good at talking to people that we have just met, you know, and introducing ourselves and doing our art or telling our story. A lot of people just don't have that, you know. They're just, they would rather just lose out on something than because they have anxiety or nervousness, and and you and I probably take that for granted from time to time.
Yeah. So what's next? Where are you headed for the holidays? Where are you playing? What are you doing?
I'm going back home to Detroit for Thanksgiving. I get to see both my parents are there, my sister, my nephew, brother-in-law, a bunch of great friends. We're driving because we have giant dogs, so it'll take a week, but we won't be up there for a week, you know. And then my thing for next year is I'm going to write songs with as many people as I can. I've been bad about writing with other people. So that's going to be my goal, is just to write with as many people as I can and see what kind of music I can come up with. You know, you get sick of your own bag of tricks after a while, so I want to see what other people bring out of me and what I can bring out of them.
Well, to still one of my favorite songs. Okay, so the first one that I go to, it's the one I go to when I'm feeling a little blue, because it both makes me feel better and it lets me cry, is Superman Only Better. Like, it's just every time. And I think I've even posted it out. In fact, well, no, Uncle Carl is I think a couple of weeks ago on my stories on Facebook, I posted it as one of my at the beginning. So for those of you that follow me on Facebook, if you've ever noticed on my stories, it always starts with the song. I put a song up, and then I put like 10 TikTok videos. And
Gotcha.
I think a couple of weeks ago, you were highlighted there. You were my star.
Oh, awesome.
And then today, I started one. So today, you're there again today. But for those of you folks watching, go check him out on YouTube. Let me put his website out. We still have like 8 minutes. Why am I getting rid of you yet? You're not done yet.
I don't know, man. You're gonna have to work harder than that to get rid of me.
Yeah, no, and I enjoy the conversations with you. So this is his website. You have a really cool website. What's all in there so folks can?
Oh, thanks. Thanks, man.
What all? Till you tell them what you have in your website.
Well, there's links to all the like Spotify and iTunes, any place you can listen to the music. There's some merch we've got, you know, for folks that still listen to CDs. We've got those. We've got some T-shirts, bandanas, stuff like that. You know what? One thing I didn't talk to you about that I wanted to mention is last year, because of the whole Uncle Carl thing and because of the energy that the LGBT community generated behind it, it made a little bit of money. And this year, I'm looking for LGBTQ inclusive charity to donate some of that to. So maybe once we get off camera, you can help me find one.
Most definite. Yeah, I work with a couple that I can tell you about.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. So I'm working on getting a page up on my site about that right now. And then there's, you know, pictures, videos, stuff like that. There's Uncle Carl, but there's a few other videos I've got on there. You know, just your basic website stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and get a T-shirt for the next interview.
You got it.
But out of all this, okay, so do you have an idea how many songs you've written?
Yeah. How the amount of songs I've written and will perform in front of people right now fluctuates between like 45 and 50, but like actual having written probably between 250 and 300.
I know this is always a question you probably, I think every singer gets this question, and I have to ask it, obviously. Mm-hmm. Do you have your favorite?
Of the songs I've written?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple. Superman Only Better is one of them. But, you know, it feels a little selfish because a lot of it's always going to be like the song people react to the most, you know? But I have a selfish like too. There's one called From Here that doesn't get a particular lot of listens, but it's special to me because it's about a feeling that I think everybody has where you love somebody, but you just know it's not going to work. And the chorus is, "We both know I love you, dear. It's just better if I love you from here."
Oh, wow.
And it's that just for whatever reason feels like something we've all been through, and so I that song's special to me.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to some stuff. Um, for those of you that keep wondering about Superman Only Better, I just found it. So we're gonna close the show out in a minute with that song, so you guys can hear that till the end. That's my way of keeping you on the show to the very end. So, haha.
Awesome.
But let me make sure I can do that here. Get this together, and there we go. Oh, yes. So there we go. We're gonna put that at the very end. It's already queued up, folks. So just calm down.
All right.
Yeah, 4 minutes. What have we not talked about? What haven't I asked you that you want to talk about? But first of all, I think it's really impressive and cool of you to do that for the LGBT community. I think it's pretty awesome. But something
Well,
I missed. I'm trying to think of. I don't want to ask you any redundant, dumb questions, but is there something that I missed that?
I don't know. I can't really think of anything. I just I just am so grateful to the LGBTQ community for all the love they've shown me over this, and it feels so. I haven't always looked forward to Christmas, but since this happened, I do now. There's just some extra love involved in it, and it just feels very warm and cool. And I feel like if I didn't move any markers, if I didn't do any actual real help in the real world, maybe I made some people feel better. And I've gotten so much back for that. It's just lovely.
Well, there's something that you said a couple of times in the interview, and it caught my attention. You're like, I have no business, but you do. I mean, I think that's one thing that COVID, the lockdowns have taught us, is that regardless of where you were in this world, we were all under the same blanket. It's almost 20 months now where we've all been under the same blanket.
Yeah.
We've all shared some heartache. I know that we've all lost somebody in these 20 months.
Yep.
We've all welcomed a new spirit into this world in the last 20 months. Like all these things that we've all seen, turn the TV on, watch the news. And I think because we were home, now it is my business to put out good vibes. It is my business when I see somebody being total dick out there somewhere. And I think not to put more responsibility or pressure on you, but I think because you are a storyteller, I think like as a, I consider you a friend, and I'm a fan, and like I want you to tell these stories. Like I want to come to you and go, I want to hear what he has to say. And do I expect you to get up in front of a podium and give a speech? Probably not, but I expect like a song. Like your voice is so reassuring that like I think I would welcome bad news from you if you sang it to me. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I appreciate that. Fortunately for you, most of my music is bad news, so it works out great.
Oh, see, folks, that's what I like them. I one of the things that I admired about you, and one of the other things I wanted to have you by the show, just because you're just so down to earth, you're so humble, and I appreciate that. For everybody, like people who have canceled interviews because they were not home in their space, they were in a hotel or somewhere else, and they were like, I can't do it because I'm not home. I'm like, doesn't matter, just wherever you are. Like if you have the hour, let's just do it. And this dude pretended to be homeless outside of a hotel to to do this interview. And I remember telling you that day, like, dude, we can reschedule. It's no big deal. Like, and you were like, nope, we're going to do this. And we did the hour. And to me, from that moment on, I was like, not just a fan of you, the artist, but I was a fan of you, the person. It takes a lot for somebody to say, no, I got this. Let's do it. And that's really cool. That's why I was like, yes, please come back on the show.
Well, awesome. I really appreciate you having me.
For everybody watching, our guest today is Aaron LaCombe. We've been talking about his music, what's waiting for him for the next year, and we've been talking about Superman Only Better. So without further, if it's okay with you, we're going to play that as the exit song for the show today.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. And Aaron, don't go anywhere. We're going to talk more after the show. For everybody else, this is Superman Only Better. Oops. Wait a minute. Sorry. Hold on, guys. I pressed the wrong button. Give me a second.
If I had my little guitar handy, I'd just do it for you.
Oh, no. Now I killed it. Okay. Keep talking for 1 second, Aaron.
Okay. You want me to just tell you dirty jokes until we...
Yes, tell me a dirty joke. Please do.
All right. I got one dirty joke. I'll keep it short. This penguin's driving down the street and his car breaks down right in front of a mechanic's shop. The walrus mechanic comes out and says, I'll have a look at it, but you got to give me 5 minutes or so. So the penguin goes across the street and gets an ice cream. He comes back and the walrus says, well, it looks like you blew a seal. No, it's just a little ice cream.
With that, folks, we're going to thank you all for watching us. Please join us later tonight for the Kristen and Daniel show. We'll talk to you guys later. Hopefully it'll start this time.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. All right, folks. Bye-bye.
When I got home from work at 3 this morning, I could not bear to close my tired eyes. The burden in my hands and feet and shoulders had come to rest itself inside my mind. When I was young, I could go all day. You'd never hear me complain about a thing. 'Cause I was Superman, only better. My chest bore no emblem or letter. I could close my eyes and fly from all the hurt in the world. And all my bones were made of steel. If I got hurt, I'd quickly heal. And impossible was no more than a word. When I look at my hands, they seem like strangers, with scars I don't remember and a few I do. There's days my hands will not do what I tell them, but you know I would not trade them in for new. When I was young, I could do it all myself. I didn't need no help from anyone. Cause I was Superman, only better. My chest bore no emblem or letter. Close my eyes and fly from all the hurt in the world. And all my bones were made of steel. If I got hurt, I'd quickly heal. And impossible was no more than a word I'd heard. I think back on all the leaving I've done, I wonder if I ever could have stayed. Was the payoff ever worth all the risk? Or did I do it right to play it safe? When I was young, with a carefree mind, I could get so high and not look down. Cause I was Superman, only better. My chest bore no emblem or letter. Did not need the love of any girl. My heart was made of steel. If it got hurt, it'd quickly heal. And impossible was no more than a word I'd heard.